Let's try and get this background right. Hopefully my computer don't fall off the books. You're like,
What? Okay. It's telling me. I think we are live now. Hey, Lucress.
hello, hello.
How are you?
I'm doing well.
When I
Thank you
say,
so much.
like, this has been a journey, it
It
has
has.
been a journey. Just, first of all, technical difficulty is probably a statement. But what I will say, it does teach you how to, like, adjust, and um, you gotta be flexible because life happens. Technology is not always cooperative, but we got
Mhm.
through it, and you are here. So I'm thankful for you and your patience. I guess we don't even fully understand like what happened, but it's all good. So with that being said, I do want to welcome you here officially, and everyone that may be tuning in right now. So with that being said, hey everybody, this is Camille Essek. I'm host of the Speaker Podcast. This is the podcast where innovators and creators connect. And here we have the queen in the building. She is the happy mindset surgeon, and she's also a member of the House of Creativity on Clubhouse. So if you are not familiar with her, be sure to follow Lucress on Instagram, hit her link in the bio, check out her information. And Lucress, thank you so much for joining me. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Camille. I'm really excited to be on your podcast this evening. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak.
No problem. And for those that are not familiar with you, just give a little insight to who you are and a little bit of background as far as what you do.
Well, my name is, of course, Lucress Irizarry, and I'm an empowerment and relationship coach. And I help women to overcome overwhelm so that they can crush their goals and experience the peace and happiness in their life and relationships that they so very much deserve. I also have a coaching. Well, that's my coaching aspect of my company, which is a women's empowerment company called Brightly You.
Mhm.
We also have a conference, which is the Hopeful, Healed, and Whole Women's Empowerment Conference. I just had the inaugural conference last October. Yes, during COVID, we
Okay.
had it as many people are having it. And then also, I'm the author of Getting on My Last Nerve, 6 peace plan strategies to stop arguing and stay married. And that came about after being with my husband for 19 years, 15 years. We'll be married this year. Yay! And
Congratulations.
but those first 6 years that we were together, man, the first year was, of course, like the honeymoon, candy, butterflies, fluffy clouds, unicorns, all that great stuff. But then, really started getting down to the nitty gritty of discovering who each of us were living together. So it's different when you're apart in your separate residences. When you start living together, that's a whole nother story, a whole nother ball game. And out of that pain and the arguing back and forth, this book was born because I didn't want women to have to experience the pain that me and my husband went through. So
Mm.
that's how the peace plan was developed out of that. So that is what I primarily do. Oh, and one last thing, I also have a nonprofit. It's called Faith in God Family Restoration Corporation. And my coaching practice was born out of that because I found that women who fell on hard times were often single moms, which means that the relationships didn't work out.
Mhm.
And so they would be telling me all of their woes, and I would give them advice on relationships. And I said, you know what? I really need to move forward and help women in a business, a women's empowerment company. So that's pretty much what I have going on over here.
Wow. I definitely want to bring you back just for the conversation about being single, transitioning into marriage, and maybe just having that conversation about things you didn't know about marriage until you got married, as being a single woman, and just kind of give a message or maybe some coaching or an episode about that because I'm not married. I've never been married. I'm single. I don't have any kids. So when you're on the one side of it, you have this idea of what marriage is, but then when you get married, it's not like, why didn't anybody tell me this? And you kind of, I don't want to say you get blindsided, but from what I'm hearing from my married married friends, sometimes it's like, oh, well, wait a minute. You know, it's different when you're dating and holding hands, but when you're living with this person every day and you're waking up seeing them every day, whole other ball game.
Yes, absolutely. I would love to come back to talk about that. It's a deep topic, but it's also funny and fun also because
Mhm.
there's some, really interesting stories that come out of that.
Mhm.
One in particular, we don't have to talk, go deep into it, but I just
Right.
wanted to share this one story where I've always experienced just giving women advice about their relationships and
Mhm.
about their life, not just relationships. That's why I have the empowerment piece there because it's not always just about relationships. And this one woman, I was in college at the time. I was riding the subway. I went to college in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And I think I was studying for a test or something. I was reading some sort of book to prepare for my class. That's what I remember. And random stranger, she's sitting there, and all of a sudden I hear, "Excuse me, miss." And I said, "Yes, like, how can I help you?" And she said, and she's looking around, she's like, "I have an STD."
What?
And I said,
I mean, wait a minute. This lady on the train that you don't even know just blurted out, I'm itching and scratching. Wow.
"Yes, she did." She said, "I have an
Damn.
STD." Wait a minute. And that's not the shocking part. She said, "Should I tell my boyfriend?" And I said, "Well, I said, "Is he abusive?" That was the first question that came out of my mouth.
Mm,
Normally you would think, okay, yes, you should tell him, right? Because most people assume that people are reasonable enough and of course they want to know. Well, of course he wants to know, right? But
right,
is he abusive? And she said, no. She looked at me like, why would you ask that question? The reason being is because if this man is abusive already, and then you go and you tell him that you have an STD, well, then all kinds of things are going to run through his mind. He's going to be like,
right.
oh, she's cheating on me. She gave me something. I mean, or it could be the reverse that he really gave it to her, but
I was just
he's going
thinking
to
that
act
maybe
like
he was cheating and
it
gave it
wasn't
back.
him.
Mhm.
So it just trying to do the reverse and gaslighting, that whole gaslighting
Yeah,
concept, making her think she's going crazy. So when she said, no, he doesn't abuse me, I said, well, then you should tell him. But if you're a little apprehensive, you need to take someone you trust with you while you're sharing the information to kind of be the buffer. So, and that was when I was in school and I wasn't going for counseling or psychiatry or
right.
anything like that. It just came very natural. So, yeah, that's my story.
I'm just floored that this lady that doesn't know you told you that she has an STD, and I don't know. I-
I
Another
had
person
that effect on people. Like they, for whatever reason,
is
trust me.
comfortable
I
just
guess I got
talking
trust
to
me written across my forehead. Maybe it's the dimples. I don't know.
you. Oh, but you know what? That's happened to me before when I've had different jobs or in the military. I was a paralegal for JAG, and my attorney that I work for was, I had to call you by your last name. Essex, it seems like everybody just comes to talk to you like you're just the mayor of the base. And it wasn't that I intended to be, but when we needed things done with building stuff or whatever, I
Mhm.
was able just to connect with people on the base, or some people would just stop out the office to come and talk to me and just tell me stuff. And they would just be like, well, why are they coming to talk to you? And I'm like, I don't know. But, we would get things done and just people confiding in me with different things. And I was just, I don't know, but it happens.
It does happen. It really does. And it's basically, because you give off good vibes. You stay optimistic and always positive and good energy. I mean, I love the Lord. And so I just, even back then, even though I didn't fully know God the way I know God now,
Mhm.
but I was still raised with an understanding and and having relationship with God.
Yeah,
So when you walk in truth, then you're just going to exude that to other people and they just
yeah,
feel really comfortable with sharing their truth with you because you are sharing your truth, even though you're not even speaking.
yeah. That kind of leads into my question. Like you're sharing your experiences, like the lady on the train and your marriage. So how does your past or your life experiences, how does that prepare you for purpose?
Oh my goodness. I would say to each and every person, Any experience that you have had in life is leading you to your purpose. Even the things that didn't work out or you thought didn't work out, you needed to experience that because it's building blocks. You know, every step of the way, every step you take is a purposeful step. This is my philosophy. It is a purposeful step toward your destiny. Like that relationship that didn't work out, and you're like, oh my goodness, why did I spend this time with this person? I feel like I've wasted 5 years, let's say.
Mhm.
Or, you know, if you were in what they call a dead end job and it wasn't purposeful for you, it really was leading you to your purpose because you had to. I always say success is on the other side of being fed up.
Mhm.
And so you had to get to that point where you just did not want to be complacent. This thing didn't work out for you anymore. And it moved you to take action, right? It
Mhm.
moves you to take action. And for me personally, in my experiences, any discomfort I felt, it moved me to my next level. So I had to become, comfortable with being uncomfortable in order to grow. So that's what my experiences have taught me from, being, the little girl and you want to see what the hot stove is all about. You touch that,
Right.
you get burnt, right?
Right.
And
Right.
it takes you up to the next, oh,
You
won't do that
learn.
anymore.
Yeah.
Exactly, right? You get burned, you remember that. You remember that experience. I remembered it. And then I knew, hey, that stove is hot and I'm not going to touch that anymore because it hurt. So there's certain things that we have to experience directly. And it's not always by someone telling us. Now, for me personally, I like to, take other people's advice and live vicariously through them once they give me, a nice detail about the situation that they experience.
Mhm.
And then I can decide whether or not I want to experience the same thing or if I can just go by them if they're trustworthy enough and say, you know what, that's not for me. I'm just gonna go over here. So yeah, that's how experience has definitely led me toward my purpose. Even with the nonprofit, for example, and how it led me to becoming an empowerment and relationship coach to help other women. I
Mhm.
started my nonprofit out of my pain. So at the time, back in, gosh, let me remember the year 2010, I was laid off. And I was in a job that I really didn't like, and I prayed, Lord, either move me or move my bosses. I didn't like them. I didn't care for them. And it was three different administrations in the 3 years that I worked at that job. So what I mean by that is I had a new CEO I was reporting to every single year. So I had to relearn that administrative team.
Oh.
And it was like having a new job each year. And I said, this is stressful.
Mhm.
My hair was breaking off. I had a miscarriage. I was pregnant at the time. Um, and but God said, I'm going to release you in a year. And he did. He did. And I was very grateful for that. Um, but also the release, it it was a release, like a relief of the stress at the job. And I was able to
Like a
collect.
load was taken off of you.
Yeah, load was taken off of me, and
Yeah.
I was able to have unemployment and also severance.
Okay.
So I was getting paid more not to work than I was while I was working, and I went on a cruise in the very next week.
Wow.
So it was the setup. It
It was
was the
set up. I
setup.
mean,
And then not too was a month later, I found out we were pregnant again. And so the whole
maybe
decision
the
was
job was stressing you out to where you couldn't hold the pregnancy, you know?
exactly. And stress is a huge thing. And I want everybody watching to understand that when you are stressed, it affects everything in your body. There's
Mhm.
these hormones that are released, and it releases the cortisol, which causes you to just it takes a very heavy toll on your body where you're not able to sleep, and
Mhm.
you have some lower body gain weight gain, and you're not eating properly. There are all these different things. Psychologically, you're worn out. It's just so much. There's taxing on your heart.
Hmm.
There's so many things that happens when you are stressed out. And I'm a big advocate of people protecting their peace. But out of that pain of transitioning out of that job and then now not having a job, because once you don't have a job and the money starts to run out, you
Right.
have to go back and get another job. And God said,
Hmm.
no, I need you to develop this nonprofit. So much so, I had this great opportunity. I did several interviews with the executive, all the way up to the executive team. And I had like one last interview to do. And I'm telling you, I had about 6 interviews for this job. So it was a big position.
Hmm.
And they called me the day before that last interview and they say, "Oh, we've hired someone else for the position." I was,
That's a
what?
blow.
What do you mean? What do you
Right.
mean you're hiring someone else? But well, huh? It just really blew my mind, threw me
Right.
for a loop. But I heard God's voice very audibly say, "I told you to start that nonprofit. Write the plan, make it plain, and start it." It was very audible to me.
Really.
I told you my relationship is close with God, and as I walked through life, it became even more close.
Look, we just had a conversation offline about that. Oh my goodness. Like you, Lucress, don't do it.
I told you.
Look, just answer the question, okay? Oh my
So, so don't play. I
God.
personally can't play. Like
Right.
in my life, I have 5 minutes to throw a tantrum.
Hmm.
Literally 5 minutes, and then I have to pull it together, get this mind in alignment, and then I can move forward.
Right.
But through that whole experience, I started this nonprofit again. Now to bringing it full circle back to purpose, that showed me where my purpose was. So I was able to use my skill set
Hmm.
and my degrees and all the schooling and the experience to develop the nonprofit. I don't have a business degree. It's in healthcare.
Okay.
However, I was able to use what I learned, apply it to actually starting a business. I didn't
Hmm.
have a consultant. I didn't go anybody. And I wrote for my own 501(c)(3), which a
Okay.
lot of people say is difficult, but it wasn't difficult for me at all. And I knew that I was graced to do that, but I didn't know I was graced to empower people. And that's how I learned about um, the the exhortation aspect of my gifting. So I have administration, but I also have exhortation, um, and that's the empowerment piece. Just to let people know where that falls. So yeah.
So going into that, so you have a knack for speaking into women, then you have the exhortation and the administrative gift. So when women, I mean we all, but particularly for women, women of color, when we've gone through different traumas in life and different things that have really attacked your internal voice, and you're trying to rebuild, where can women start as far or people start, I should say, but particularly Black women, where can we start when we're building that internal voice when you've gone through different things in life, loss, you miscarriage, some women have been molested, rape, abuse, all this stuff, but yet you
Mhm.
still know you have a purpose in life, you have an assignment, you have a gift, but then you're still battling this, like what I call bad tape in your head playing over and over. And that's something
Mhm.
I kind of address in the self-love guide, is when we're addressing overcoming being self-critical. So in that, in the first part, I'll talk about, well, what is our internal voice? Let's answer that question. What is that? What is being self-critical? What does that look like? So what do you have to say to those looking to rebuild their internal voice?
When people are, my advice to women who are trying to build their internal voice is to go back to the beginning. Go back to the beginning of a time when you weren't stressed out. This is how you have to do with the mind. The mind has to remember when it was good, when
Mhm.
things were good. So you need to concentrate on those memories and those experiences. And some of us may need to go all the way back to, when we were 3 or 4. You might have to go all the way back to that. But
Mhm.
go back to the beginning. Capture that feeling. Now bring it up to the time where you are now. And if you don't have to go back that far, pull something out of your past that reminds you of when things were good. Now, instead of meditating on the situation that you're in now, meditate on that situation from when it was good, when everything was lovely and true, trustworthy, as the Word of God says.
Mhm.
Meditate on those things. And when you start to meditate on that, on the goodness, you can start to change the conversation, rediscover the evidence of the truth. So if you're saying to yourself, oh, I'm not as pretty as her, you need to think of a time when you felt beautiful and meditate on that and say, you know what? I was really beautiful. And I'm beautiful. I'm the same person. I may not be in the same mindset as I was back then, but I'm the same person. And I never lost my beauty. And if I want that appearance, let me make myself beautiful again by first starting on the outside. Whatever it is that makes you feel beautiful. If that's going out and purchasing a new wig or getting some hair extensions or, some makeup or whatever it is, a makeover of sorts,
Mhm.
do
My
what
thing is
makes you
spa
beautiful,
treatment. I try to go to the spa like once a month for a
right?
facial or, just something that makes me feel, pampered, or attention.
Exactly. Self-care, right? So you care for yourself on the outside, and that will help you when you see your image. Is going to help you to reflect on how you should be looking on the inside. The other thing I recommend is that women take the time to be at peace. Spend some time with yourself every day. I mean, seriously, spend time with yourself. When you wake up, you got the social media, you got the news, you got people talking, you have maybe your spouse or your significant other, you have your children. If you're a mom, you have your career, you got, your job or your business. If you're running a business, there are all these things that are compounding everyone. It's not just women, it's men too.
Mhm.
But we're talking about women here, right? We carry so much. And if we don't have some sort of outlet where we just can be in a really quiet space, and I know it sounds simplistic, but I want to challenge you, if you don't do it and see how different your life is going to be. And I mean, do it every day and give yourself an hour. If you can't give yourself an hour, give yourself 30 minutes and get into a really quiet place and take a peace bath. I call it protecting your peace. You need to wallow in it, get your fingers pruning in it, really soak in the peacefulness and the stillness of that moment to allow your mind to just woosah.
Mhm.
As people say,
Yeah.
woosah.
'Cause I always say you either two things are going to happen with that energy. My grandmother used to say there's always more room out than in. You're either going to implode or explode. And
Yep.
either one of those things could be very detrimental, not only to you, but the people around you. So when
Mhm.
you're just letting things build up, the stress build up, like when you discuss, with your job, your hair can fall out, gain weight, eating is out. So much can happen. And then there are other people that go to another extreme where they're cutting themselves or harming
Mhm.
themselves. Like so much can happen when we are not dealing with the stress. Even if you just journal, for five
Right.
minutes before you go to bed and take a hot bath, turn on some music, light a candle, and journal, and just let it. You gotta channel that energy somewhere. If not, it's going to go somewhere. It's going to go somewhere.
Absolutely, Camille. And I love what you said about journaling. That is something that I absolutely recommend because you can get the words that are in your mind out onto the paper and you can rearrange those words. You can change the narrative when you do that. Sometimes it's hard to change the narrative when you're just thinking in your mind and you do your affirmations. Let's say you memorize them. But when you have that written down, and you write down the negative things too, the things that are not serving you anymore, you can change that narrative. You can say, like, for the example, I'm fat. You can change that narrative and say, I might have a little extra love right now, but I'm going to love myself until I can give some of this love away.
I call it the hourglass in overtime. That's all it is. It's your hourglass that just went into overtime. That's it.
That's all. That's all. You can completely change the narrative and love yourself. And here's the other thing I want people to take in. Give yourself grace.
Yes.
Be nice to yourself.
I say that all the time. You have to give grace to yourself. The
Be
same grace you extend
nice.
to others, you have to first extend it to yourself.
Exactly. I want you to get a picture of yourself when you were like 5 or 6 and say the things that you say to yourself now to
Mhm.
that little girl or to that little boy, if for the
Mhm.
men who are watching.
Yeah,
And see if you can bring yourself to say the mean things that you say to yourself now.
right. And I say too, and we've talked about this on Clubhouse. If you and I are friends, the stuff I say in my head, if I said it to you, we would not be friends anymore. So if I wouldn't say it to
Absolutely.
Lucress, why would I say that to Camille?
Exactly.
We should not be talking like that to ourselves. If you would not say it to your mom, your sister, your BFF, your boyfriend, your baby boo, whomever, then you should not be speaking that way to yourself.
And it's so good, Camille, what you just said. In the word of God, it says, love others as you love yourself.
Hmm.
So you first have to love yourself before you love others. It's a sin not to love yourself
Yeah.
first.
And I
You
think that
have to make
also,
sure that you are
yeah,
full,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And that you're filled up.
Mm-hmm. You have
And
to.
that, say again?
I was saying you have to. Yes.
Absolutely. You have to. You have to make sure that you are filled up. And I like the way one of my friends, Devin, we were just talking about this the other day. She said you have to make sure your cup is full and overflowing, not just full, but overflowing onto the saucer. And you can give from your saucer.
Yes.
So when you are in overflow, you can give from the saucer. In other words, you have filled yourself up so much that you can just give and give and give and give. Because why? Because you're going back to that quiet time that you so very much deserve to love on yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
self care is not just getting the nails done or going to get a massage or makeover any or and all of those things. All of those things are great, right?
Right.
But that's still just dealing with the outward. You still have to do the work on the inward, your inner work. And that's how you are going to, you know, overcome those obstacles within yourself and your mindset and getting your mindset to be restored essentially so that you can, what did you say earlier about the women who are stuck?
Mentally stuck. Like you go through these things and it's like you hit a rut. Like you can't move past. I call it, and I know it's not a real term, but I call it emotional bookmarking, meaning you experience a trauma, or if it's at 21, 8, 9, 15, 30, and you get emotionally stuck in that space, emotional bookmarking, and you can't move
Right.
past it. So it's like you have to figure out how to move past that emotional bookmark. My pastor, Bishop Merritt, who was I think preaching or doing Bible class one time, and he said, "Your past does not dictate your future; it's only a point of reference." And I think sometimes we get so stuck on what happened that we
Mhm.
forget that we have a promise on our life that God has a future for us. Jeremiah 29:11. We
Yeah.
have to really plug that into our lives and say, "Yes, this happened. Yes, that happened." But we have
Hmm.
to choose to be victorious and not to be the victim.
Absolutely. I know the plans I have for you, plans to give you
Not
hope in
the
the
evil,
future,
not
plans
the
not to hurt you or harm you, but plans
yeah,
to give you hope in the future. I love that. I
yeah.
love that scripture. And I'm glad that you talked about that or you shared that. There was something else. There was something else I was thinking about as you were talking that came to the forefront. I was talking about she said serve from your cup. It's half empty. Like if it's half empty, you need to go back to filling it up again. There was something else I wanted to share, and I'm like, where did the thought go? It's like it was there, and it
Oh,
was like,
oh. Maybe it'll come back around. But I also think just when you were talking, Lucress, it made me think about when you were referring the cup. I think to me, I think it's also very important to investigate your circle, the people around you.
Mhm.
On Tuesdays and Thursdays, I missed this week because of personal, I got some other things I'm focused on for the week. But Dr. George C. Frazier, and I love hearing him speak on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I like in that space on Clubhouse how we can ask him questions. And he made a comment. He said, "If they can't build with you, you should not chill with them." And it's just like when you're around people and maybe you have trauma bonds with them, you were friends, or you have something in common because of whatever situations. But when you begin to heal and God begins to make you whole and enlighten you, and it's like taking the blindness off, and it's like, man, not that they're bad people, but you get
Mhm.
to realize that you're not helping my purpose. You're not pouring into me. You want to sit here and die together on this wall. And I'm like, no, come on, let's go. And you want to stay in this place. And it's like some people in your life will not accept your transition. They will not accept your evolution. And sometimes you have to peacefully make that break. And some people don't like it, but there's more for you. And it's like, hey, I love you, but I have to keep going. And then in that process, it may feel lonely because, people fall off, whatever. But over time, God will begin to bring other people into your village or
Mhm.
new tribe, like I found with Clubhouse or the Mark Collier Business Academy, and I've really found my tribe in those two spaces. And I'm beginning to not only just live or exist, but to thrive, because now it's not always me pouring out, me always giving. It's a place of reciprocity. It's a place of
Mhm.
equality where you guys give to me as far as value and encouragement and vice versa. And I love that space. So, Lucress, what are your thoughts on evaluating or investigating your circle and making some decisions, and when you're in the space of evolution towards your purpose?
Yeah, I've gone through, so you go through cycles of that,
Mhm.
right? There's a saying, everyone's for a season, a reason, or a lifetime. And you go through cycles and you need to become aware of when that transition is happening. So if you need to force the relationship, what I mean by that is you're reaching out to people, but they're not reaching back. And you're pouring into them, but they're not pouring any value back into you, because it is a two-way give and take. It's a whole dance that you're doing. It's synergy that's happening.
Mhm.
And you know what that looks like because that's what brought you together in the first place,
Right.
in your friendships, in your intimate relationships. But then there comes a time where they have served their purpose for that season. Now, what I found is that it doesn't mean that that's the end all the time. Sometimes it's just the end and you need to cut it off because it's toxic, right?
Right.
But then there's times where it just kind of, fades. There's
Yeah.
a fading that happens. And the best example of that is you're in high school, your high school friends, right? All of your high school friends that you had back in high school are not all your friends now, for
Right.
the most part. For most people, that's not the case. There are only one or two or handful that you kind of rocked with, throughout your entire life. But
Hmm.
everybody that, even ones that you had a close connection with when you were 15, may not be the case when you're 35,
Yeah.
you know? So you had to recognize what season you're in first and then evaluate each person in your life to see if they are um if they are pouring back into you, if they are the ones who are contributing to you reaching your next level or your purpose.
Hmm.
That's how you have to look at it. And I know for some people it might seem harsh and it's kind of like, well, I've been with this person, I've known them for 20 years, I've known them for 30 years. Yeah, but are they adding value? Are they helping you to get to your next level?
Yeah.
Are they sharing the same insights? Do you see them moving in the same way that you're moving in your life?
Do they
And if
challenge
the
you?
answer to
Yeah.
that is no, then you have to ask the question, okay, can I still be connected to this person? And maybe the answer is yes, you can.
Hmm.
But now they have to be put in a separate category. They can't take up as much space, because if they do, then you're not going to be able to advance to where you're trying to go.
That's a really good point. I also look at the fact: do you challenge me to be better? Are you letting me be comfortable. Like we're just in
Mhm.
the space chilling together. No one's growing. We're stagnant. We're not moving ahead, but we're not where we are. We're just in this lull. Like
Mhm.
I've learned that I cannot thrive in those spaces, and I need to be around people that are constantly challenging me or stimulating my intellect. And there have been people I've known for years, and every time I see them, well, I will say this: since joining the military and leaving the military from that time period, I noticed when I would go home to visit, I had less to talk about, and it wasn't that anything
Yep.
happened or anything was bad, but it was just like, "Oh, how you doing? Fine. What's going on?" Nothing. It was just the same,
Yeah.
whatever. But then when I would start chiming in, well, this, da, 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 and they
Uh-huh.
just go, oh, okay. And it's just like the conversation. And I'll be like, well, it
Yep.
was good to see you. All right, see you later. And it's just the conversation just began to just fade away because
Yep.
not being exposed to different things, y'all traveling, getting deployed, going to different countries, meeting
Mhm.
different people, walks of life, and then leaving and then walking into, creating brands and things like that. So my interest and my mindset is different now. So when I connect with some of those people, the conversation is very bland. It's very bland. And it's not, again, like anything is bad happens. It's just there's like a drifting apart that's taking place.
Yeah, it's just a natural ending. And like I said, cycles. It begins, there's a beginning and there's an ending. And then when something's ending, something else is beginning.
Hmm.
Right? So that's what we have to recognize when I talk about seasons. We have winter, spring, summer, fall, at least in the Northeast, but there's different seasons, right? And so you have to recognize what season you're in.
Right.
You have to recognize, is this the season where I'm leveling up and I can't really talk to anybody and I need to grind and, put my nose to the grindstone and really, grind certain things out because I'm in creation mode for a business or even for your job or your career? Or are you in a season of peace where you're just kind of enjoying the spoils of what you've produced, the fruit of your labor, right? Are you in that season? Are you in a season where there's some hardship happening and you just need a lot of support?
Hmm.
There are different seasons, and we need to figure out what season we're in and determine whether, those people will help us through whatever it is that we're needing. And then also, you have to evaluate your capacity to serve others and to help others. There are some seasons where you're really filled up, you're overflowing, and you just want to give, 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 right? But then there's other seasons where you need to pull back. You need to fall back because it's not the season for you to give and overgive and overachieve. This is the season to be peaceful and to really be okay with thinking about what your next move is going to be and then preparing for your next move. And you can't do that when you're operating in confusion and everything is always up and there's always a lot going on all around you. It's just sometimes you just need to turn everything and everyone off.
Yeah, take those social media breaks. Put the phone down. We wake up with the
Exactly.
phone, go to bed with the phone. You see people can't even put groceries in the car. They're on the phone. It's just like put it, the phones really have us, and you just gotta pause and just stop and take those peace baths, me time, and just shut it down. So, and I've noticed when I do that, I'm able to create out of a greater place of clarity.
Mhm.
Like the last couple of days, I've been really thinking about some things and just um, I guess internal reflection and just seeing some things in areas where I may have misstep or I did misstep, and it's like, okay, well, why? And like we talked about before, where did that come from? Where's the source of that? And just really digging some things out personally. So yeah, it's very impactful when you shut it off sometimes.
Yeah, I had to finally shut when I finally made the commitment to shut everything and everyone off for a time. I was really able to get in touch with my emotions.
Hmm.
And it allowed me to grieve.
Hmm.
So my father died back in 2018, but I felt like I didn't get a chance to really grieve when he passed.
Hmm.
It was just kind of like, okay, well, we, took care of it and yeah, he's gone. And all right, back to work, back to take care of the family, back to
Yeah.
being a friend, back to, and I felt like I didn't have that time because I had so much responsibility.
Mhm.
I felt like I really didn't have that time. It's because I didn't allow myself to have that time. But I recommend that everybody get a therapist, right? If
Oh
you are
yeah.
not, and that was the thing
You
that
can have Jesus
I
and
was going to
therapy.
say to you earlier, right? And I'm like, why did I lose this? I'm so glad it came back because it's super important. I knew it was
Yes.
something important I wanted to share.
You can
It
have
is
Jesus and
not
the
a
therapist, all the
crime.
super saints out there. You can have Jesus and the therapist.
Yes. I
Come
was
on.
just saying, it is not a crime to have a therapist.
Not a crime
I
to sin
absolutely
either.
recommend it. I have a therapist,
Me
and
too.
I had to get in touch with my feelings
Yes.
because I felt like if I allowed myself to feel to the extent that I needed to feel, doesn't mean I wasn't feeling, doesn't mean I wasn't, loving toward my husband and my children and caring for them or anything like that, with a flat affect and just not engaged or anything like that. But I really wasn't digging deep into Lucress and touching on the things that bothered me.
Mhm.
I'm one to say, well, it comes with the territory and I'm a strong woman, and I just keep it moving, right? But never really addressing and sitting in it and allowing me to feel what I feel
Leaning
for the
into the
moment.
emotions. Yeah.
Yeah, leaning into it. And then, trying to understand it and where it's stemming from and having the conversation in my journal and then being able to bounce it off of someone who is trained to be able to help me to navigate through that. I highly recommend therapists to people. Not all therapists are created equal. There are some that are not good and there are some that are amazing.
Yeah, you gotta
But
date them. But just like a relationship, you gotta date them.
you
Maybe
have
it's
to
not
date
you,
your
it's me. It's not you, it's me.
and I love this period of time in human history because it is a popular and acceptable thing to do.
Particularly within the Black community, like we
Took the words right out of my mouth.
tear
Yep.
down the walls. And me growing up in church, mental health was taboo. Even now, it's still not really talked about. But having
Right.
the spaces to tear down some of those false narratives about mental health and spirituality, like there's they go hand in hand. I truly believe that.
Absolutely. I mean, that's why you have these greeters that are they greet you at the door of the church, but they mean,
Praise
you
the
know,
Lord.
mean and honoring because you need therapy
Look at
because you're
you.
going through something.
Like, really? Okay, Sister Girl.
Oh, that's how you feeling today. You can never be like that when you're a greeter. You always have to be upbeat. But how can you get there if you're not dealing with your
Like,
baggage?
I thought the joy of the Lord was your strength. Like, what's going on? You not strong today?
And that's the other thing. It's like if you went through something, that's what I was going to say, traumatic, because you brought up the word trauma.
Mm-hmm.
When you're dealing with trauma, like if I and I have encountered several women who were dealing with some deep trauma
Mm-hmm.
that I'm not equipped to handle. I am
Right.
not a trauma counselor, therapist. You need special training in that because that's a very fragile mind. My job is just, is for the people who went to a therapist and now they're ready to accomplish their goals. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm just explaining the difference between a coach and a counselor, or a therapist, or a psychologist or psychiatrist. Um, there's a difference in the fact that a coach will look at what you're doing. We'll see what you're out of alignment with and what can be improved, and then we will get you from not having that goal accomplished to having that goal accomplished. We're all about getting you to the goal. What is the next step? What are the steps specifically for you to get to that goal and be successful? But you have to be in the right mindset in order to do that, right? You have to have, open up those bags that you didn't want to open up and take everything out. Do that with your therapist. There are people that I've said, you know what, you're not ready for me yet. I can't help you in the way that you need to be helped. And I've recommended some of my therapist friends to different clients because, or potential clients, they weren't actually my clients, but
Mm-hmm.
you do the consultation call with them and they absolutely need some deep inner healing that only a therapist can provide. But when they come back and they're ready, I can get them, I get results to get to their goals. So that is what I do as an empowerment and relationship coach, whether it's in their life or their relationships.
I love
But I just wanted to make that distinction
it.
and explain why it's really important to make sure that your mind is right. Because if you don't go through that deep work first, what'll happen is while I'm trying to get you to the goal, something might happen, something really small, you
Emotional
know,
injuries.
like my car broke down today, but shoot, you're going over the edge, and you're having a whole breakdown and you can't even take the next steps. Now
Yeah,
you've paid for the coaching and your money's wasted because you can't go through the entire program to really be the successful person and the best and brightest version of yourself. So, yeah,
emotional triggers.
definitely.
Yeah, I
Emotional
totally
trigger.
agree. So well, first of all, I gotta bring you back because you are awesome to talk to. Your wealth of information, like, oh my gosh,
I had a
I
lot of fun. I got
really,
so much more. Like, I'm like, I could keep
I
going.
know, and I'm just over here thinking like, oh, we can talk about this and we can talk about that. So I definitely gotta bring you back. Um, yeah, that's a must. You're officially a friend of the show. So
I feel so welcome and loved. Thank you so
yes,
much. Oh,
so
yeah, my heart.
yes, so if you follow Lucress on Instagram, you will see that's even on Clubhouse, all her pictures, she's throwing the heart up. So for those that want to book you for empowerment coaching or anything else, Lucress, where can people connect with you on social media?
You can connect with me at Lucress. It's a space Irizarry. Lucress Irizarry is my name. And also on Facebook, Lucress Irizarry, Empowerment and Relationship Coach. That is my business page. You can connect with me there.
And if anyone wants to purchase your book, where can they get that?
Oh, my book is on Amazon. So
Okay.
you can go to Amazon.com, look up Getting on My Last Nerve. You got to type more of the title in. But if you search my name up, it'll take you right to the book, Lucress Irizarry.
Awesome. Well, Lucress, thank you so much for joining me. It's been an honor and a blessing to have you here. Definitely bringing you back because I'm just super excited because you were just phenomenal. I think you're phenomenal. So, with that being said, I hope everyone that you may be watching or listening, if you catch the replay later, I hope you got something from it. Be sure to follow me on Instagram. If you listen to the end of this podcast episode, all the information will be there. So, until next time, this is Camille Essick. I'm host of the Speaker Podcast. And until next time, everyone be blessed. Bye-bye.